The reason I've been looking at this is I'm studying the history of bathing in the 18th century in relation to the collection here at the Highland Folk Museum, but in particular looking at linen, which was an enormous part of our economy in Scotland as a whole, joined up with all reaches of the empire, and it would probably surprise you to learn just how big it actually was here. The majority of school children in the mid-18th century would have been spinning. The girls would have been taught to spin at school, and that was compulsory. And the stuff they were spinning was getting sent to Edinburgh, graded, washed, and then distributed further out into Scotland, and then shipped abroad. And the biggest market for that was in the colonies and the West Indies. And it was going to make a really scratchy, rough type of linen called harn, essentially to clothe enslaved people. Quite a thought, really, to think of children really spinning, but it was women as well, it wasn't just children, but something happening here that was very much joined up with empire at the time. Yes, in 9/10 of the exports of linen in Scotland in the 18th century were they went to the West Indies or the American colonies for harn. For slave clothing. Scotland was importing fine linen from Ireland. Ireland was exporting to America in vast numbers, to England and also to Scotland. So we were buying in fine stuff, we were producing much rougher stuff, and there was clearly a market for it, or else they wouldn't be doing it. So thanks to Maureen Hammond, my supervisor here, she suggested I grow the stuff, and what she's got me into. So I'm in my third year of flax growing. Incidentally, I should say I'm dressed as a man because Duncan Grant, that's who I am, the linen overseer, he had to put his own sort of money behind the enterprise, which was then refunded by the Board of Manufacturers, the government arm, for stimulating the industry. But he would wait 2 years sometimes for his money back. And he had to factor in loss where horses would die on their route out to Breedner because of stormy weather, or carts got broken. And at one point he had a man carrying flax out of Breedner and linen on his back because he couldn't get horses to move it. So there was some poor chap had to walk Gaelic with the linen on his back. Anyway, so I'm Duncan Grant, and the sort of merchant class, they weren't all decked out in tartan. Merchant class would be wearing the same sort of stuff that you would see on the streets of Edinburgh, or even actually in London. Same with the minister as well. Not particularly Highland looking. Possibly, you would have plaids on, like Mary has too, all swathed up in it. But that's your kind of like your travelling coat to wear plaid. But essentially, merchant class wore coats and gear like this, and men would be in charge. Oh, hello, more apprentices. Come in. And men would be in charge of these processes. Women were responsible for working in the field, for pulling the flax and for weeding it, and children as well. There's a reference that says that women and children are to weed the flax field with their backsides to the wind and in bare feet. So there's presumably some sort of wisdom, but I think it's to make sure that the that the plant is sort of lifted because you've got your back to the wind and you're not trampling it in your bare feet, but it's very specific about how women are to process it. So back to the crop itself. I'm in my third year growing. This is my first year's effort. I didn't do very well, I only managed to get a few bunches, but I learned an awful lot. This is exactly the same strain. The next year I had much better prepared soil. This has been retted differently. You've got a different colour. Retting is the bacterial process that breaks down this outer part, which you want to break that down so you get this lovely fluffy stuff in the inside. So I focused the first year on just trying to get a decent crop, and I learned a lot. There's so much that wants to eat this stuff. Second year, very good, very small area. I got a really good crop, and then third year. I was asked to grow oilseed flax for Historic Environment Scotland, and this is actually going to be used for paint, for linseed oil traditional paint. It's a completely different variety of flax. It's oilseed, much shorter. You sow it differently, it branches really quickly, which means you get lots and lots of seed heads. But the important thing is, these don't have very many seed heads on them. If you let your plant go to seed, all the energy's gone here and you get really rough, scratchy, tough fibre that's not very good for making linen out of. This stuff you're not going to make linen from at all. All the energy of the plant's gone to the top here into the seed. So, the process. We're not all going to fit in here, and actually we're probably not health and safety enough for everybody to come in anyway. So I'll just demonstrate. This is called a Flax break, and it's been recreated by staff at the museum. I gave them some plans and they rough photographs, and they managed to recreate this. What you want to do with this thing is to effectively break down this sort of woody outer surface. We tried some earlier, which was a bit of a disaster. That I had speed retted this stuff in the bath at home, and then speed dried it on the radiator, so it was just far too brittle. So clearly the temperature and the rate of drying and retting, etc., is really, really important. So obviously natural is better, none of your fancy 21st century ways. So this stuff hasn't been retted in water, it's been retted outside. It's still slightly green, probably not the best. But what you're wanting to do with it is make sure you don't get your hands. You're not chopping it, you're just breaking down the outer stem. And this is hours of work, you know, it takes ages. And you're always wanting to try and keep it same direction, because you want all your fibres to be long and thin and all in the same direction. So that's breaking. And after a couple of hours, it breaks down enough that you can then transfer it to the scutcheon board. It would need to be much more broken down than that. But your scutcheon board, you can imagine you're actually trying to take the wooden parts off. That's not doing very well, but this is actually your slip-in, so this actually needs to be much finer, more like a sort of paddle, and it takes off the woody outer part. So it's taking the sort of rougher parts. I haven't processed this. This was pre-done, but this would have taken a long time to do it manually and to do it properly. But by the end of today, all the apprentices will have mastered it.
Optimistic.
So a lot of these are just very kind of boring tasks, and hecklers were apparently literate and very politically astute, and there would be a team of maybe 4 of them at work, and one of them would sit and read the newspaper and read it aloud to the other hecklers, so they would be quite well informed. And that's where the term heckling comes from, because they could then go and give their opinion at public events, etc. So that's pulling off the sort of harder, scratchy bits, and then that's lovely and fine, sort of like a horse's tail, that is. That would be further combed. You can actually use that stuff. Yeah, although they even used to use that, and it was graded and called dry band wrap as a sort of grade, and it was dry band because you needed 3 bands to put it together, to get it on the ship, to hold it all together, to export it. But it was still worth quite a lot of money even in that sort of state.
What did they do with their produce?
Used to make clothing with it. Yes, but they were making sails as well. So there are just so many uses for it as a plant. No, it's not great. It reacts with acid in the air, and it breaks down. I think possibly they were using it, but there doesn't look like there's certainly not some material culture evidence here anyway, but hemp I think was more popular for that. Right. I missed out the rippling bit. I didn't show you the rippling, did I? If you're having the oilseed stuff like this, there's little point really in taking the seed off that, because that's not going to be good seed for growing, because all the energy's gone into your fibre flax. But this stuff is specifically grown for the little seed balls here. And again, rippling. Could I have an apprentice, please? I'm trying to catch all the seeds of this thing here. Show you to that side. And then your fingers and pulling it. Oops. You're there, aren't you? So this is rippling. It gets all of the seed heads off, which we can then gather up. And this is the stuff that's going to be made into oil. And in each of these little seed heads, and you imagine from one plant, one seed that you've sown, one seed is giving you that, times all of those, times that, you're getting a really good return for one plant. Yes.
I'm recognising it at that stage.
Yes.
Very good stuff. That's
Yeah.
for the oil.
Yes.
It goes in my
Oil
grate.
seed.
It goes in my grate.
I don't. This one, I think it's. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not the highest, but it's the best for here because you need it flowering early, so that it doesn't die off with frost if it's keeping going. So, does anybody have any questions?
Maureen, I missed the name for that.
It's a flax break.
Flax break.
Break, yeah.
And when you said that the hecklers, you can describe them as a particular group of people. Do they tour?
Yes.
So the whole process wasn't done by local?
Some of it was. The majority of it was the growing and the pulling and the spinning, and then they would have visiting, hecklers and processors to maybe sort of oversee and get people going. The chap Duncan Grant took people under his wing to become apprentices, and when you're a linen overseer, your apprenticeship was 8 years. But you were versed in all of the aspects of linen production, and that meant all the heckling, all the scutching and that sort of thing. And it was very much a sort of Enlightenment kind of ideal, like a sort of gentlemanly agricultural improvement, but it's also very much supporting government and government ideals, etc. Because the money here they were raising from the flax, etc., was on Clooney's estate, which was forfeited. So the money's going straight back to the government. It's not, not local. This is a kind of like a farm for it. People are not being cleared off the land, but they're, being used to kind of keep this economy going.
So that was a lot of organisation to organise these specific dates to come at the right time.
Yes.
When travel wasn't easy.
No, exactly. I think when you've got like one area and your overseer, they were very, very particular, very prescriptive on how it has to be done. And having grown it, I can completely understand why it has to be like that, because, if you get one bit wrong, you're losing so much of your crop. And, if you put your hands on a piece like that, the British Linen Bank, basically you could take linen in and get money. It was worth money, or you could take flax that you'd spun and get money for it. So even this little bit is not original. This is from 1960s, but it was worth so much. So you want to get, if you're a dreadful spinner like me, you'll end up with a sort of lumpy bit. But the board wouldn't have accepted that. They were really exacting on the quality and how the linen had to be presented. And quite often people would cheat and put the good stuff to the outside, and the inner part was really thin and horrible. And if that ever happened, it got cut up by the board into small unsaleable pieces and given to the poor. But it was worth a lot of money.